Cuts and Captioning for the Deaf, Important Tools of Accessibility by Matthew Coles and Dawn Beckham. Curb cuts. A curb cut is a solid ramp graded down from the top surface of a sidewalk to the surface of an adjoining street. It is designed primarily for pedestrian usage and commonly found in urban areas where pedestrian activity is expected. In comparison, a conventional curb finish at a right angle of 4 to 6 inches above the street surface, a curb cut is finished at an intermediate gradient that connects both surfaces, sometimes with a tactile paving. Location and uses. Curb cuts are found at street intersections. It allows wheelchair users, parents with strollers, individuals with shopping carts, etc., to move on and off the sidewalk with less of a barrier. Many curb cuts features tactile paving, which is a pattern of circular bumps that indicate to visually impaired pedestrians that they are about to enter a roadway. Who benefits? Pedestrians using a wheelchair, crutches, cane, walker, or individuals with joint pains or a person with a shuffling gait. Pedestrians pushing a stroller, shopping cart, or a hand truck. Bicycle, rollerblades, or skateboard users. Thesis of curb cuts. The main idea or purpose of curb cuts were to allow individuals with disabilities to cross the street easily and safely, thereby granting them the independence to traverse freely through society. Jack Fisher. He was a lawyer and former veteran from Kalamazoo, Michigan. He lost full use of his legs in an Army Jeep accident during World War II. The majority of his clients were members of the disabled community, and from them he learned about the problems of access, mobility, and employment. Due to the tall curbs in downtown Kalamazoo, individuals with disabilities could not safely cross the street without fear of injuries, thereby making the downtown area inaccessible. In 1945, he petitioned the city to replace the sidewalks on several downtown street curbs with sloped concrete ramps. Fisher was quoted as saying, "These cement ramps in many instances mean the difference between disabled veterans and disabled non-veterans having employment, as with the ramps a person confined to a wheelchair, on crutches, or wearing an artificial limb is able to get to a place of employment unaided. The ramps thus enable many so-called unemployable persons to become employable persons, and not only benefits the disabled person alone, but benefits the community at large as well." The commission approved of the project, and they allocated $680 to the installation of 34 curb cuts. Mr. Fisher worked with the city planners to design and install curb cuts with safety rails at the corners, so wheelchair and crutches users could safely navigate. Social model and its relationship to curb cuts. In the social model, the most significant barrier for individuals with disabilities is not the disability itself. Rather, it's the barriers in their environment in which a person with disabilities must interact. Society disables people through designing everything to meet the needs of the majority of people who are not disabled. Due to the inaccessibility of the sidewalks, individuals with disabilities could not safely navigate the area. This barred them from seeking gainful employment and fully experiencing their lived environment. With the invention of the curb cuts, it removed the barrier of access and allowed the disabled community admittance into areas of their community that they were previously denied. The curb cut effect. Deconstructing stereotypes about disability. Our country has a belief that it's senseless to spend money outfitting our society to accommodate people with disability. The stereotypical belief is, why should we spend time and money when it only benefits one or two individuals who need it? Curb cuts deconstructs this stereotype. The curb cut effects describes how laws and programs designed to benefit vulnerable groups, such as the disabled community or minorities, often end up benefiting all of society. When curb cuts were put into use, it benefited not only people in wheelchairs, but society as a whole. Parents pushing strollers headed straight for the curb cuts. Did workers pushing heavy carts, business travelers wheeling luggage, even runners and skateboarders. What the curb cut effect shows is that when society creates the circumstances that allows those who have been left behind to participate and contribute fully, everyone wins. Captioning for the deaf, an electronic curb cut. Captioning is an electronic curb cut. The electronic curb cut effect is often associated with captioning. It has been noted that the implementation of curb cuts on sidewalks for people with disability ended up being a benefit for non-disabled people as well. People pushing carts, riding bikes, or pushing strollers all benefit from curb cuts. Sidewalks with curb cuts are simply better for all. This is true for captioning as well. Although it was invented for deaf and hearing impaired people, it also benefits anyone. For example, someone wishing to watch a show with the sound off or in a noisy restaurant. Location and uses. The National Association of the Deaf presents that the role of television in American society is broad. From the provision of news and entertainment to the delivery of education to broadcasting emergency information, television is a staple in the typical American household and in many public venues. Television programming is no longer limited only to the tube and is increasingly available online through streaming apps as well as web pages. There's a notion that TV is a visual medium. Try watching TV sometime with the sound off. I promise you'll soon learn that it's not very visual. It's really a sound-based medium with pretty pictures to make it more effective. Without the pictures, it can succeed. Without the sound, it can't. This was a quote by Irving King Jordan, the first deaf president of Gallaudet University. Who benefits? As an electronic curb cut, millions of people benefit from closed captioning. However, it was developed for and is a valuable accessibility technology tool for the deaf. Invention development. In 1947, Emerson Romero, a deaf actor and cousin to the movie star Cesar Romero, developed the first captioning of a film by putting captions between picture frames. Edmund Burke Boatner, superintendent of the American School for the Deaf, and Dr. Clarence D. O'Connor, the superintendent of the New York Lexington School for the Deaf, launched a small nonprofit company in 1949 called Caption Films for the Deaf. The company captioned and distributed 29 educational and Hollywood films to schools for the deaf around the country. Eventually, the U.S. federal government took over the operation of Caption Films for the Deaf. Media for the handicapped. By the early 1960s, the agency had been renamed Media for the Handicapped, with an annual budget of millions of dollars for the captioning of all types of films. Dr. Malcolm J. Norwood. He was deafened at the age of 5 by measles and scarlet fever. He graduated from the American School for the Deaf in 1943 and from Gallaudet College in 1949. Dr. Norwood went on to be the director of Caption Films for the Deaf. Norwood became a leading advocate for the development of closed captioning on television and was singularly responsible for popularizing the captioning techniques now used in television. First with special captions, decoders, and later integrated into television circuitry. Disability model and relationships. In removing a barrier in society and allowing for easy access to media, Captions for the Deaf work within the social model of disability. Captioning allows for news and important information to be transmitted. Additionally, sign language interpreters are now a common necessity for live press briefing to ensure that any lack of captioning that may occur does not prevent important messages from being received by everyone. Going beyond media. Captioning goes beyond serving the deaf population and also benefits the hearing impaired and the elderly with hearing impairments. Along with accessible technology like telephone devices for the deaf, talk-to-text, accessibility through technology removes barriers that create disability and allow for people to live a full life. Communication aids have also been utilized by vocational rehabilitation services. Since the passing of the ADA, equal employment has relied on auxiliary aids and services.